Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Stefan. I am the Director of Operation at ALSIM Solution. We are a Florida-based company, and we are the distributor, the exclusive distributor of ALSIM simulator products in North America. And today I'm here to speak about simulators. So what we will do today is we will go over a summary of the benefits of the simulator when integrated into your flight school. We will also talk about the acquisition cost, the financing and amortization of the simulator in terms of dollars and cents. We will continue with the onboarding, instructor training, and what we call phase 0. And then we'll finish our presentation with a Q&A, and that will conclude our presentation. So what are the benefits, some of the benefits of flight simulators? Flight simulators basically provide a very realistic experience. The new simulators really look and feel like real airplanes, and it really helps pilots learning how to use the flight control and the system of the aircraft. In terms of safe practice, pilots can also practice different flight situations, including emergencies in a very controlled environment. Flexible learning, the student can train at their own speed, which allows them to repeat the exercises as needed until they feel ready to take that same exercise onto an aircraft safely. Immediate feedback, this is another benefit of the flight simulator. Instructor can observe the students and give them immediate feedback. And what that means is, as a student makes a mistake in their training, they can really pause, go back to the situation that they just encountered and correct the situation, and therefore maximize the proficiency of the student. Realistic flight experience. So basically the advantage of the flight simulator is it gives a true to life cockpit replication. And what that means is the students in the first initial learning stage of flight training can really become familiar with the control of the aircraft prior to getting into the actual aircraft. And that familiarity is really beneficial to the student in the early stages of flying. The next benefit would be the immersive scenarios that we're able to simulate, whether it's weather, whether it's terrain. You can manage any type of, you can create any type of flight condition that can, again, teach a student a different flight configuration and how to remedy them, especially in case of emergencies. The student can practice handling emergency failure in a safe setting, and what we have found the main benefit of that is it builds a tremendous amount of confidence for the students. So when they get onto the aircraft, they're much more at ease when they simulate an engine failure or stall or whatever situation that may be. Another benefit would be the safe practice and flexible learning. And basically what we mean by that is a risk-free environment. It provides a safe environment without physical danger for the pilots, where they can make mistakes and learn from their mistake, and understand what the situation may be in an actual aircraft when it actually happens. So the idea is when they become, for whatever reason, they become faced with a situation, an emergency situation in the aircraft, they will have a better response to that emergency based on the training that they have incurred in a very controlled environment using a flight simulator. Weather and terrain simulation is also a benefit. We can replicate any type of weather condition, whether it's ice, whether it's fog, whether it's low ceiling. Same with diverse terrain. We can apply all kinds of terrain situation configuration onto the map. So for example, for those of us who fly in Florida where it's very flat, well, we can simulate flying in the Rockies, where terrain do become an issue for the student when they fly, as far as situational awareness. And basically the whole benefit of the flight simulation is the on-demand training and adaptable scenarios, again, providing Basically, you're not reliant on weather. You're not reliant on say airspace. You're not reliant on traffic. You can take off at any time. You don't have any restriction in terms of daylight, for example, for private pilots, if you want to practice your flight at night. So it provides really an additional tool to complement your existing fleet of aircraft that can really enhance the training for the students. And as such, it will be able to build very targeted skill and improve the flight training. Immediate feedback. So the immediate feedback is basically when the student will perform a maneuver that is not as per the procedure dictates it, the instructor can literally step in right away and correct that situation. And this has a tremendous benefit to the student in a sense that it can, so as an example, say you miss a landing or you miss an approach or something didn't go right on the approach, you missed your turn from base to final, you can go back to the flight simulator, go back 30 seconds and correct the situation and show the student exactly what has happened so they can in turn correct the situation and make sure that during the next landing their base to final turn is perfectly done. All this type of situation, being able to stop the simulator, stop the flight, go back in time and replicate the maneuver until the maneuver is done properly is really a true benefit of flight simulators. So all of this result is in a better decision making for the students because of the constant practice and the repetition ability that the simulator provides. The student is able to fine-tune his decision making and make better decisions, build confidence, and therefore become a better pilot. So all this leads to what about the cost efficiency of a flight simulator? So we're gonna get into that in depth a little bit. Basically, we're gonna talk about the acquisition price. We're gonna talk about the operating costs, maintenance costs, financing, and amortization. Obviously, the flight simulators are cheaper to buy than an airplane. They cost a lot less. You don't have any maintenance. No insurance or very low insurance costs compared to an actual aircraft. You don't have the delays, for example, especially for private pilots. When you're learning maneuvers, you don't have the delays of taxiing, holding short, taking off, getting your ATC to clear you to your practice area where you can practice your maneuvers. Just that alone, if we were to compute the time saving, if you provide training to a student for an hour on a flight simulator, that would probably be the same as flying about 2 to 2.5 hours on an actual aircraft. If you take into account, and I'm taking as an example, we're based in Sarasota. It takes us, the time we stop the aircraft to the time we get to our practice area where our students do our maneuvers, it takes probably about half an hour to 45 minutes. And then you have that training time, which is the actual teaching time for the student, which is about an hour or so, and then you're flying back. But if you do this early on a simulator, you're really building up the skills and maximizing the learning time that the student puts in, and to again enhance the training and make it more efficient. So acquisition costs, financing, and amortization. So when is it worth getting a simulator? When does it make sense to get a simulator? What is the break even? How many hours you need to fly in order to pay for it? And how does that relate into cost-effective training? So the short answer is, when does it make sense to get a simulator? If you operate a fleet of 5 aircraft or more, adding a simulator on your fleet does make sense. And the way we came up with that number is, we basically, if you assume that you're gonna have 12 students per year enrolled from private to IFR to commercial and completing the license, all 12 of them within a year, basically that's the number that you're looking at to break even on your simulator. No, I think it's frozen. Down here. So in terms of hours, it's about 40 hours a month. That's the time. That's the time needed to be thrown on the simulator in order to break even. It basically, if you take that into students, basically, roughly we worked with Serious Aviation in Florida to do a test program of simulators and the impact of simulators on flight training. And basically, what we found out is 20% of the training right now can be done in the simulator, which is assuming about 250 hours of flight time between private to commercial. You're looking at about 40 to 50 hours of flight on the simulator per student. So cost-effective training. So basically, better training tools equals better students. The simulator, the way we look at the simulator at ALSIM is we're really looking at it as a bridge between the ground school and the aircraft, where, especially in that first phase of learning for student pilot, where the pilot has no understanding of ATC, has no understanding of aircraft system, and so on. We find that focusing the initial training on the flight simulator is really beneficial to the student. It provides, what we found out is in average, it provides a saving of reaching solo time about 30% faster. And the retention, the information retention from the student is much greater. So another items to take into account regarding the cost effectiveness is if you compare the simulator to an aircraft, you do have long-term savings when properly used. You will always have less maintenance on simulator. You don't have the maintenance costs, the landing fees, the fuel, the insurance, the big hangar. So all these costs are adding up and making the simulator a viable option for the early stages of training in flight school. So the next thing is, if you do have a simulator, how do you use it? Because one of the main things that we hear from flight school is many flight school have some, but many do not use it properly. So what we've identified is we've identified some of the issues as of why flight school and universities are not leveraging simulators as much as they should. And here we're going to talk about onboarding. We're going to talk about instructors' acceptance of the simulators as part of the flight training, and we will also speak about phase 0. Okay, basically, what is onboarding? So onboarding is when we deliver the simulator to its final site, whether it's a flight school or university, and we spend typically about a week on site installing it, hooking it up, testing it. And then once the simulator is installed, we coordinate with the chief instructor, usually, to provide training to the staff, to the CFI, on how to use the simulator as far as understanding the way it operates, turning on, turning it off, and also the type of training that you can provide to the student that would facilitate their learning curve during their flight training. So with doing that, we've noticed that on the early stages of installing a simulator, the usage is pretty high. So usually flight school will probably use it about 40 to 60 hours a month at first, and then you will either climb up or level down or decline. One of the reasons, so it usually climbs up when the instructors, the chief instructors, and the CFIs are really well trained and really aware on how the benefits of onboarding, of teaching the students at the early stages of flying. So, for example, you can do the lessons before getting into an aircraft. You can put the first couple hours of training into a simulator so the student can become familiar with the aircraft systems. So when they get into the aircraft, they actually know how to fly it. And what that means is it has an impact on many things. It has an impact on their learning curve. It also has an impact on the maintenance of the aircraft. If you take a first-time student getting into an aircraft at first hour, the landings are going to be pretty hard. So usually you end up incurring some savings on the maintenance side as well. So instructor acceptance is critical. And so why is it critical? Because, so again, when we first installed these simulators, the usage is really good. And then what we've noticed is after a period of 18 months to 24 months, if the flight instructors there's been a turnover in the flight instructors, usually the usage decreases. And the reason it decreases is because there is a lack of recurring training almost on the simulators. And we feel like with the CFI turnover, because now you get a CFI into a flight school, they're going to be probably with the organization for about 24 months, 36 months, and then they'll move on to the airlines. And so you have the CFI who's learned how to use a simulator with his flight student, and now he's moving. And the CFI who's replacing him or her does not have that knowledge of how to use a simulator. And so that's when we feel like every 18 to 24 months, getting a refresher course usually brings the simulator usage way up. By doing so, it makes it a very profitable asset for the flight school. So one item that we've been working on also is Phase Zero. And Phase Zero is a program that we've been working with, trying to integrate flight lesson into the simulator at the early stages of flying. And basically trying to create almost like a virtual instructor where you take a student who has flown 0 hour, put them in a simulator, and have an instructor teaching them the basic concept of flight from hour 1 to hour 10. So when that training is done, the student pilot can get into an aircraft and basically is able to start it, able to taxi it, able to make it straight and level flight. And basically we found that it really accelerates the training curve for the student. And in average, what we found out was solo time for students is about 30% faster when they start their training on the simulators for the first 10 hours. So for the student, it's a cost saving. For the instructor is getting a student that is proficient much faster, so the quality of instruction is higher. In terms of time, the training is also faster. So the turnover of students is faster, the quality is better, the cost is more cost effective, and it allows the flight school to accommodate more students because the training gets completed at a faster pace. So this concludes my presentation today. I'd like to thank you for your time today, and thank you, King School, for hosting this event. It's been a great event. My name is Stefan Barron. I'm with Flight Sim Solution in Sarasota, and we are ALSIM. We are distributors of ALSIM simulator products. If you have any questions, you have my number and my email on the screen. Please don't hesitate to reach out, and we would love to be able to connect with you and assist you with any of your simulator needs. Any questions? Yes, sir. Yes, so we have a whole line. So we have a whole line of simulators from cockpit specific aircraft to more generic configuration. So for example, we have one that is called the AL250, which is it's a multi-aircraft configuration. You have a single engine, multi-engine, analog panels, and glass panel as well, glass cockpit as well. So it depends what your training needs are. Some flight school what we tend to see is in terms of the type of simulator needed, the flight school, for the flight school is typically something that is more generic, where they can teach when they can focus more on the flight training rather than the system of the aircraft. Sometimes we have a flight school or an organization that has a lot of the same aircraft on the fleet, and therefore they want the exact duplication of the aircraft that they currently own. So there's a couple different, you have different options basically. So really this is a high level view of the simulator, and based on your specific need, we can really tailor it to what your needs are. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Stefan. Stefan is the ALSIM distributor in the United States, and they're a sponsor, but it was my guidance obviously was we wanted to keep the simulator talk generic and make it top level, because we know there's a bunch of devices that are out there. But I totally agree with phase 0, and I've written TCOs that if anybody wants to send me an email, I'll share. I did a private pilot TCO that only has 19 hours in the airplane, and it's using the King School curriculum. And what I did is each phase is completed entirely in the simulator first and then goes out to the airplane. So they're going to do the entire phase, do a progress check in the sim, then they go out to the airplane, and we've copied 5 of those lessons. We're going to go do them now in the plane. They've seen every one of them. Same thing when we go into cross countries. They're going to do a cross country in the sim to the one that they're actually going to do there. We found the students have so much more comprehension by the time they're in there. And those of you that asked that, well, how'd you get this approved? So it's under a 141.55 Delta. So, it's a special curricula that it was approved. And we had 4 different schools that I shared it with, approved it, great success. Yes?
No, we have not.
Special curricula doesn't have the oversight of the 142 program, but yes, you could.
Still, they can be done. I already said what I can say.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you.